So I run a little site called Online Personals Watch. I've been running this since 2004, and it's specifically a service for you and for the press to research the industry. Every day we review the news, and we're looking for the key intelligence, the interesting bits that will help you make decisions better and hopefully make more money and hopefully grow the industry as a result. We've branched out a little bit. We've got internetdatingaffiliates.com as well now, which is specifically for affiliates and affiliate managers. We have Internet Dating Investments for those who are interested in investing in the industry or who already have stakes. We also have Internet Dating Jobs for prospective employers and employees, and Internet Dating Newswire for press releases. We don't often run press releases, so this is a site just if you want to see what's being pushed out in the industry. This gives you an overview. And a little aside, in 2006 we started Social Networking Watch, but OPW is the main place to get news. As a backdrop, what is our incentive for doing this? We consult for internet dating companies and occasionally for companies who want to talk to them. So we do PR, biz dev and strategy. The overarching goal of Cortland Brooks is to grow the entire industry. Our underarching goal is to help our clients grow a little bit more quickly. Full disclosure, all media is biased. We have a bias. We're accepting money from companies, therefore we are biased. These are the companies that I've mentioned in this actual presentation that I've worked with before or whom I'm currently working with. Dating Factory is the current company. So Cupid, Dating Factory, Plenty of Fish, Twoo and White Level Dating are mentioned briefly in this presentation. For news, if you've got news, we'd love to hear from you. We're especially interested in news that is in major media. So if it's in New York Times, we're pretty definitely going to run it if it's about internet dating. If it's a press release, far, far less likely. But please email tips@onlinepersonalswatch.com. As a product of some significant consideration of bias recently, we've decided that my wife is going to run Online Personals Watch, mainly because she's the only one who really knows how to say no to me. So she's now the editor of Online Personals Watch. I'm looking after Cortland Brooks. So we're going to cover key metrics and rankings and revenues. We're going to cover industry reputation, mobile key metrics and rankings, some interesting news, a little bit about the future. We may cover, if I've got time, how to value your company. But let's start off with the innovation of loneliness. This video you can find it on YouTube, actually called The Innovation of Loneliness. It was produced by Shimmy Cohen and featured through the Thought Cafe. I've adapted it for the purpose of the internet dating industry. Monkeys have very well developed social and sex lives. The size of their groups is limited. In order for the monkeys to function well, all members of the group need to know each other well. The average size of groups grows from 20 to 50 members, and when the number of monkeys passes a certain threshold, the group crumbles and splits into two groups. Humans do something similar. Language and gossip has helped us form larger groups. Research shows that the maximum natural size of a group of humans is 150 members. We're not mentally capable of intimately knowing over 150 people. So even today, the threshold of human organizations is around 150 members. We are social creatures, and the feeling of loneliness can drive us mad. But we reward individuality and are attracted to people who have good careers and wealth and a strong self-image and lots of stuff. But we're really losing our social and family ties as we chase things that we think make us more attractive. Something is broken. Despite the rise of social networks and technologies that should bring us closer, more and more people are lonely, and loneliness has become the common ailment of the modern world. We're spending more and more time in new media and in online communities. Our time is becoming more valuable and measurable, and people are starting to realize they shouldn't be wasting time going around and around and being distracted online. Technology is becoming more personal, closer, and deeper to us. We're addicted to virtual romance. And now technology is evolving that can really help dating sites match people more effectively than ever. But we're spoiling our users with choice when we should be offering better quality and time-optimizing services. Back and forth they go. We need to get our users interacting in more human ways, on the phone, on video, in person, real human conversations. We claim to have many friends, but we're actually lonely. So what is the problem in having a conversation? It's real time in the real world, and you don't know quite what will happen next. New media allows us to edit our identities. Users invest hours on end on their profiles, but everyone becomes somehow similar, and identities have become cut from reality. Profiles have become so generic and removed from reality, we're all offering kaleidoscopes of the same users and user experiences. The problem is, our users are expecting more from technology and from us, and less from each other. We aren't just matching users, we're responsible for shaping the next generation of human beings. It's the last great social responsibility. The technologies that we create will shape generations to come. We have three primary responsibilities now. We need to focus on improving behavioral matching, enabling easier, more human forms of communication, and offering a real choice of people to our members. And perhaps we can change people's minds about internet dating and ensure we don't sink back into stigma. Reputation is ever more fluid, and we're sharing our personal feelings, even as we're having them, and our experiences. Our reputation as an industry hangs on a thread. We can really help shape a new pattern of happier, more fulfilling connections and help fight the epidemic of loneliness as our users grapple with these new and paradoxical social technologies. So, some key metrics. Let's have a look at the EU5 online dating market for starters. So last year I said Italy was a big opportunity. Let's see how that fared. We've got numbers here from Comscore, and these are July 2013. So more people are accessing dating sites via mobile than ever before, as we all know. Italy's the fastest growth market. France is the biggest market overall and has the biggest penetration. 17% of internet users are on internet dating sites. The biggest opportunity, I think, is still in Italy. So let's have a look compared to the USA. What we have here, in the USA, there's 223 million people that are using the internet on a monthly basis. And there's actually 21 million people that are using internet dating on a monthly basis. And in comparison, in the EU5 specifically, there's less. There's 207 million people that are accessing, that are using the net, and there's actually 23 million people using internet dating. So the penetration is higher in Europe, interestingly enough. The numbers are down year over year because people are drifting towards mobile, very significantly drifting towards mobile. And we'll cover that later. So let's look at the time spent and average visits per visitor to online dating sites. In short, the 45 to 54-year-old range has the highest engagement. That's our core group, and the group that we know to monetize very well, of course. Let's have a quick look at the rankings. We've got the top UK dating sites here, courtesy of Comscore. Guardian is the new entrant. They were actually number 10 last year, and now they're number 5 rather, in the rankings. It's exactly the same top 4 as last year, by the way, so no change in the top 4 year over year in the UK. Plenty of Fish is seeing 3 million uniques a day right now, by the way. Meetic is now in 16 countries in 13 languages, and as we know is now 81% owned by Match.com. Mark Simoncini, the owner, owns 7% still. He's maintained a 7% interest. Zoosk is expanding and doing very well. They are now making $40 million a quarter. So they've got a $160 million a year run rate, up very significantly over last year. And they are, quote, mobile focused. They are really focusing on mobile. There's interesting, a quote from the fellow who designed Grindr, I remember. He said, you really have to design for mobile first these days. And I think Zoosk is certainly taking that approach. Here are the top French dating sites. Meetic, as you'd expect, in the top spot. Adopt and Mec is an interesting site here. It stands for Adopt a Guy. And it's a very amusing site that's done extremely well in France. It's actually been copied in the USA. And the copies have failed. There's been a couple of companies that have tried to do something similar, but it hasn't worked in the USA. They were number 10 last year, and now they're number 4. And Bazoocam is kind of an odd one out on this list. They do video chat with random people. And here's the German rankings. friend Scout has 130 people working for them now. They're a subsidiary of Deutsche Telekom, and they've traditionally had a real stronghold on Germany. So that's now Meetic and Match a number one spot in Germany. Date Dienst is number 4. They're a dating factory site, interestingly. Lavu is a social discovery site with 1.4 million monthly average users. And Elite Partner is number 5 now, and they're focused on affluent singles. So have a quick look at the top Spanish dating sites. As we know, Two is owned by Meetic now, and Meetic and Match are coming in at top spot. And Italian dating sites, Meetic and Match are number 1, followed by Two. Let's have a look at revenues. There are a few public companies, of course, and we've been tracking them for some years now. If you'd like an overview of the public companies, go to OPW. Actually, if you just go to Internet Dating Investments, they're very clearly shown there. But if you go to Online Personals Watch, on the left bar, you'll see Research and Reviews. There's a ton of stuff behind that link. Research and Reviews. And you'll see public companies listed there. And we've pulled together PDFs of each of the public companies. A very nice one-page overview. So if you just want a snapshot, I recommend checking that out, but we'll cover the numbers right now. Meetic, they've estimated about 190 million euros revenue for this year. Profits are declining, but they're increasing their spend on marketing and product development. They've acquired Two and Pastor's Party and Spraydate in the last year. Spraydate being one of the the original Swedish dating sites, one of the early Swedish dating sites. And incidentally, Two added 5.1 million euros revenue to the bottom line here. To the revenues, rather. So let's have a look at stock prices. What we've done here, the hypothesis was that, or the question was, has these companies outperformed the market? So for the Paris Stock Exchange, we selected SBF 250 as the most representative index. And here's Meetic. So the answer is no, not really. It's fairly flat. It's certainly not outperformed the market, which has been on the rise. September 2011, the stock price was 14 euros, a little over 14 euros. And as of September 2013, we're at 12.55 euros, so it's a little bit down. Let's have a look at Match.com revenues. This is the behemoth in the industry. Revenues are expected up, we predict, will hit $1 billion in 2015. And they've got 15% year-over-year subscriber growth. And they're really proving that in this industry, size does matter. They're growing by acquisition largely. And here's the Cupid numbers. Very interestingly, of course, given recent events. Edison Investments predicted that they would have $95 million revenue in 2013 with £27.5 million pounds profits. Now, the actual H1 results are out September 24th, just next week. So we'll be covering that on OPW. That's now, of course, Panorama dented the stock price significantly, and we'll cover that in a little bit further into the presentation. There was an article in Reuters in June which said that they'd halve their Q1 bottom line, essentially, to 2.5 million GB pounds instead of 5.9 billion. So 5.9 million pounds in Q1. So we'll cover that shortly. Industry reputation. Let's talk about reputation. So there was quite a dent in the reputation of the industry with a Panorama special on the internet dating industry, which really featured two companies, White Label Dating and Cupid. White Label Dating for involvement with using pseudos some years ago, and Cupid was accused of using fakesters. So I had a hypothesis here. I had a question. I wanted to know just how sensitive is the investment community to such news. And of course, the numbers are right here. We can actually see these numbers for the very first time. We can see just what the investment community think of this kind of news. And that's reflected in their stock price. So we've got the FTSE here. Unfortunately, Cupid, which was an all-star not too long ago, has not outperformed the market. But let's have a closer look. If we have a look at the time frame where this news happened, we can see that their stock really plummeted. So there's no question that the investment community does not view this kind of news very favorably at all. But let's talk about your brands. Let's talk about advocates. I recommend looking at this book, by the way. In fact, this order's a little off, but I recommend having a look at this book. It's a fantastic book. I'll probably run it on OPW, so you've got a link to it, but check out Brand Advocates. I think there's a real opportunity here for the industry to form an association. There's been a couple of, really the closest the industry has got to this at this stage is Spin Codex with their standard. Kind of the end goal of such an organization is to produce some kind of standard. We need to introduce standards before they're introduced upon us. I see this as somewhat inevitable. There's been some approaches on legislation in the USA on the dating industry. But in short, there is a group called the Online Dating Association, which I highly recommend you get involved with. They are forming in the UK. There are 13 companies which are now partnered with this group, and they are working on standards. It's been a long journey, and I understand that those standards will be introduced to the industry, and you can opt into those standards, and that'll be happening hopefully this year. But let's talk about detractors. One of the things I've learned from brand advocates is that there's a certain portion of your members that you'll never keep happy. You'll never make them happy. There was a survey that was done some years ago by True, and they found that 20% of their members were happy. That's not bad. I think the results were skewed and shown that 80% of internet dating members aren't happy. But the reality is 20% members leaving a dating site happy is actually pretty darn good. The matchmaking industry is far worse. When somebody drops 5,000 euros or pounds, they're going to be very difficult to make happy. And so the matchmaking industry, I've seen this, I've been involved with the matchmaking industry, their reputation has really been hammered because of those unhappy members. But we have to observe detractors and try and look after them. Otherwise our brands become dented. And what I found is the people that would be detractors are also the people who are most likely to be your advocates. They're the vocal minority, the ones that will jump onto a blog and lambaste you if they're not happy with your service. These self-same people are the people that will evangelize you if you look after them. And I kind of feel like I'm one of these people because there's not much middle ground with me. I've been dealing with multi-service people for a while. We've got one guy who's been installing a garage door 4 times. He said he was going to show up. And he was late and he didn't call me 4 times in a row. And this is a fairly common occurrence in Malta. But it drove me batty. And I'm just going to, if I have the opportunity now, I'm going to go out of my way to dent his reputation because it was just completely unacceptable. But on the other hand, if he'd looked after me, I would have been very happy to refer him. So there's a lot of people that just kind of sit on the fence. They're vocal, they want to make a noise. If you give them the opportunity, they'll become advocates. And there's a very special way of dealing with advocates. You should all send out a survey and ask and take every opportunity to ask your members on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it that you will recommend us? The people who score you 9 to 10 are your advocates, and you need to know who these people are. And you need to gather testimonials from them and give them an opportunity to evangelize your service. We do a reputation analysis for our clients, and it's very simple. You type in your brand name and you look at the results, the first 5 pages of results on Google. If somebody's considering joining your dating site, they're going to look at your brand and just check up its reputation via Google, most likely. So it's a good idea just to see where your reputation sits. So we do an analysis. We look over the results and we show positive, we look at okay stuff that's relevant, we show the negative stuff, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff which is negative. This is the results for one of our clients, for example, some time ago. It's a dated former client. And so we saw on the first page that they had 10 positive results, okay results rather, 0, a couple that weren't relevant. So this is the sort of thing that you can do at home, very simply. Mobile key metrics. Let's move on to mobile. And let's take the top level picture. How many people are in our addressable market in the EU5? Now you can see that there's 241 million mobile users in the EU5 at this stage. But we make our money on smartphones. So let's have a look at smartphone penetration. Across Europe now, smartphone penetration stands at around 57%. And the EU is actually higher than the USA, but the USA is growing faster. It may well overtake the EU in 2014. As of June 2013, actually, the USA is at 59%, so it's actually already over what the EU was earlier this year. In December 2012, 75% of newly acquired phones in the EU5 were smartphones. So if we look at how this is trending, sooner or later people are just going to be using smartphones, in short, which is good for business. Spain, interestingly enough, has the highest penetration of smartphone usage, so 66%. What are people doing? Well, they're emailing, they're checking the weather, and third on the list is they're looking at internet dating sites and Facebook and social networking sites. Followed closely, by the way, by IM usage and search. And let's have a look at the OSs. 50% is now Google Android. Apple coming in at just 20%. But iPhone still monetizes better. The prediction for the mobile dating revenue globally came from Juniper Research, and they say that by 2030, in this year, the global mobile dating revenue should hit $1.4 billion. Well, over 40% of people are using Match Mobile at this stage. They're using their mobile phones to log in and Match every day. 50% on OkCupid, and 70% of Plenty of Fish users use the service from their mobile phones. Let's have a quick look at the top grossing mobile applications. Not much has changed on this list from last year, interestingly enough. Badu now has 191 million users worldwide, by the way, and it was actually overtaken for mobile rankings by local players in the UK, Germany and France. So it goes to show you can unseat the top dogs. Grindr has 6 million users in 192 countries now, by the way, so very worldwide. Let's have a look at the free iPhone apps. The big news, in the UK, Tinder has overtaken Plenty of Fish, which will please Sam Yagan no end, because they are really, Marcus and Sam are very competitive. So Marcus, of course, runs plentyoffish.com. Sam Yagan ran OkCupid until it was bought by Match.com. So he went from giving, he'd stand up iDating conferences and he'd give all the paid sites a hard time. And now he's the CEO of Match.com. Great. Adopt and Mec leads in France. It's free for women, and they have 50-50 male-female ratio, by the way. Actually, we'll interview the CEO of Adopt and Mec on OPW by the end of the year. They're expanding rapidly across Europe as well. And you'll see Down mentioned. Down is actually Bang with Friends, which has done quite well in the USA. It's very quite controversial. It was actually dropped from the iPhone App Store for a while until they renamed Down. I'm not sure I'm down with that name, but that's what was accepted by Apple. Here's some interesting news quickly. SprayDate was bought by Meetic. SprayDate is one of the original dating sites in Sweden. They've been around 12 years. Meetic bought it, and Match is actually going to continue in that market. Meanwhile, they also bought True.com, which we heard a little bit about earlier on. True was a massive media company, and Netlog was one of the last competitors to Facebook left standing in Europe, and they decided to make a transition towards internet dating, and now they're owned by Meetic. They were bought for 18.9 million euros cash. Interestingly, True was in 38 languages. Can you believe? 38 languages, and they get 9 million uniques a month. Also, back in May, Gaydar was bought by Channel 4 The Big Breakfast, which is an interesting suitor. And eDarling buys itself back from eHarmony. 2 years ago, eHarmony bought a 30% option in eDarling, and they opted out. The option was eventually that they may well buy eDarling. But I think eHarmony decided to focus and stick to their knitting in the USA market, given that Dr. Neil Clark Warren has brought the company back. After many years in VC's hands, he's bought the company back, and they really need to focus on the USA market. However, talking about focus, eHarmony is doing some very significant brand extensions fairly shortly. They're talking about moving into the job market and helping people find roommates, which is very dangerous ground. We'll watch this brand extension strategy with great interest. It's very dicey, very dangerous, but I think they could well pull it off. So eDarling had 50 million euros revenue in 2012 and were slightly profitable. Rumours say that their 30% stake was bought back for $30 million, which would value them at around $90 million US. I think eHarmony could use the cash, of course. They want to focus on the US, and perhaps they'll still buy them later on. And the next thing eDarling did was move right on into the UK and Ireland very, very quickly. After eHarmony bought that share back, they moved into eHarmony territory in the UK and Ireland. And on the whole, that's not a bad strategy. I'm surprised there are not more competitors to eHarmony. I think it's good for them to have a competitor because they're going to drive awareness to this thing called compatibility matchmaking. So, big news, Panorama featured Cupid and white label dating. They were focused on and lambasted in this show, and that has affected the industry. That's really affected our reputations on the whole. The next thing that happened is Max Polyakov, through his group, bought back Be Naughty for £43 million. Cupid gets to keep Cupid and Love Again and Uniform Dating, so they're focused wholly on PG. But let's see how the market reacted once again. Did the market react favorably or not so favorably to this acquisition? Let's have a look. This is when rumors started. The market picked up, then in mid-July, the acquisition happened and was announced, and it's gone down a little bit, but it's gone down about the same. So there's some rumor mongering, the stock picked up a bit, and then it's basically flat. So it's really not continued to go down, which I'd say is a win. That's a good thing. And one final thing, on a lighter note, I'd recommend another book to you. This book is called Love in the Time of Algorithms. It was written by a fellow called Dan Slater, who's a former Wall Street Journal reporter. And I highly recommend you pick this book up. Dan spent 4 years focusing and writing this book, and I really recommend you read it. It's an inside track on the dating industry. Let's have a quick look at some trends. The industry is moving offline again. Matchlive.com was around many years ago. Back 2004, 2005, they were running events in the USA. And then they killed it. They killed it because they needed to focus. They realized that there wasn't any money in events. They needed to focus on just reeling in all the regular members. But you know what? They've got them. They've got all the people they're going to reach, and now they have to reach into the cracks. They need to reach all the crevices, the people that are tougher to reach. And they're hanging out at events. They're not coming to an internet dating sites. They're on Facebook, and they're being more social. And these are a very critical group of people to reach. So Meeting Soirees was launched in December 2012. They're doing 300 events in the first 3 months and have 35,000 people through those events. Incidentally, I was with Cupid in 2005 when we bought Predating, which was the world's largest speed dating company at the time. And the thing that we observed was that the people who go to speed dating events are not necessarily the people who want to be on internet dating sites. So it was a tougher acquisition than we thought. We got the two groups to play together by giving them their matches online on Cupid.com. So we integrated the two, and that worked quite well. But expect to see more M&A activity with speed dating companies. There's not too many left to buy, but expect to see some of the more significant companies bought. Pasta's Party was also bought by Meetic. They have 100,000 singles. They're focused on France. And what they do is they have pasta, they offer up pasta, they offer up some champagne and wine, and then they take photographs for the profiles. That's a good combination for an event. They're getting photographs when people have got their happy faces on after they've had some champagne. Very wise. And then My Single Friend follows suit in August with their Date My Single Friend events, which are wing men and wing women based, and that's doing well for them. Social matchmaking is another trend I think you'll see more of. You'll see the likes of Engage a long time ago. Engage was one of the first. Didn't work out. I think they're ahead of the time, and they were expecting too much of the matchmakers. I don't think people really want to do matchmaking. It's got to be gamified, it's got to be fun and interesting, and it didn't quite make it fun and interesting enough back when Engage.com was around. But Hinge is a company to watch. That's a new one. And of course we all know about Tinder now. They were actually started by Hatch Labs, which is an incubator of IACs. So the same company that owns Match.com owns Tinder. No surprises there. I'm sure Sam had his hand in this. They're growing rapidly, and they were seeded on campus. Very young members. It was very addictive, and the average users check the service 11 times a day. And this is very consistent with what we see with mobile usage. With internet dating, you're on a while, half an hour, you're gone. With mobile, you're on, you're off, you're on, you're off. Throughout the day, the users come in for very short bursts checking email, which is great. That's what internet dating should be. It should be mobile. It's the perfect platform for us. Tinder is now #1 in the UK App Store. They've passed Plenty of Fish. Bang with Friends is one to watch as well. Well, down, I should say. Let's see how the new name does. I think Bang with Friends is why they were successful. And Would Love To is another app to keep an eye on. They're very much like Tinder. You select people you find attractive, and you add them to your locker, and if they then choose you, you both get notified. But this is a very old concept. Hot or Not came out with this years ago. Let's talk about the future. Really, the future is going to go social, it's going to be mobile, and yes, location is going to be involved as well. But what's next? Technology cycles tend to last about 10 years. Wearable computers are the next trend, and we really need to start thinking about this. Yes, we can talk about location, but it's not really location. We've got to stop using that word. It's scary. Women don't like giving away their location, but vicinity's fine. Vicinity works in the internet dating world. It just doesn't fit. Location just doesn't work for us. Location works for social networking. If you already know somebody, sure, give out your location. Maybe you can meet for a coffee. Vicinity is the right route for us. But in the future, privacy will be less important. Here's a survey from 2013 May. That's when it was published, at least. So this is the percentage of respondents indicating they share everything or most things online. So there's a huge rise in public sharing. And if we have a look, the red line is USA. 15% of respondents indicated they share everything or most things online. At the far end, interestingly, we've got Saudi Arabia. 60% like sharing. As we move down the list, we've got Poland at about 30%, Italy at about 25%. So, in short, privacy will be less important in the future. And we need to start thinking about this now. I say mobile, with the mobile platform, we've got a real opportunity to observe behaviors across apps and really suck in information that we can use to provide real matches, really good matches. Past behaviors are the best indicator of future behavior. So we need to look at these things and consider them very closely. But there is a very fine line, and that fine line is, at some stage, our apps are going to become invasive. They're going to be too close, and I think we're going to suffer for that. So there's a very fine line for us to walk, and we need to walk it with where the users are at. But they're willing to share a lot more these days. On that point, I'd recommend a course. There's actually a course that's coming up in December 7th to 14th. I recommend checking out Singularity University. And it's actually a university that started in Silicon Valley by Ray Kurzweil. And he is Mr. Future. This is the man that has done more to correctly predict the future than anyone else. I really recommend checking this out. It's a one-week course, December 7th to 14th. I'm going to go. I'm going to write about it. And it'd be lovely to have some company. My team has been thinking about internet dating for some years now. We're a team of 12. I've recruited everybody from the internet dating conferences since 2004. Here they are, actually. It's the first time I've ever shown them at a conference, and here's my team. So here's what they thought. They thought you should think direct carrier billing. It's a no-brainer at this stage. It used to be costly, clunky, and take too long to get paid. Now, it's a no-brainer. You should look at it. You should think about microtransactions. Zynga had $1.1 billion revenues in 2011. People are ready, people are happy with microtransactions at this stage. And those were 99 cent to $9.99 in-app purchases. There's just less resistance to microtransactions. On the one hand, it's nice to get that monthly revenue, but on the other hand, if you give people the option, some people will spend a lot more money with you in a microtransaction environment. It's very fluid and easy for them. It's very hard to convince youngsters to pay $20 to $40 a month. Some people will just very happy making multiple smaller purchases. Think post-date. What can you do after the date? Why not ask them on their mobile phones? How did that date go? As soon as you know that they've left that restaurant, that you've helped them book and made a couple of pounds off, why not ask them how the date went and throw that into your algorithm as well? Think tablets. Some amazing things are happening with the growth of tablet-based computing. iPad growth is 3 times faster than the growth of iPhone. Overtook sales. It overtook sales of PCs and laptops in Q4 2012. So we saw some numbers. We heard some numbers from Eric about the iPad growth in Benelux. I really think we're going to not be using phones in a few years' time. We're going to use one device, and it's going to be an iPad, and that's going to be the phone, your little mini computer. We're going to just drift towards using the iPad more and more. Here's a quick overview. I think you should be considering vicinity instead of location. We think you should be looking at the social graph more. When a man is interested in a woman, he needs to indicate two things to her. He needs to indicate that, number one, he's interested. We've all done a pretty good job with that. But number two, he also needs to indicate that he's safe. And we've done a pretty lousy job with this. There were some attempts at this in the USA in the past by offering background checks. That's kind of scary to even bring that up. And it doesn't work. And it gives a false sense of security. So the best way, and one of the reasons that Friendster was started many years ago, I worked with Friendster in 2002, and I know Jonathan Abrams, who started Friendster, said he thought internet dating was cheesy. And he wanted to create a more natural way for people to meet their friends of friends. And really it was a way, back then and now, people can judge a person by the company that they keep. Women feel safer when they can see who that person is that they're about to go on a date on Facebook and see who they're surrounding themselves with. I read an interesting saying recently, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Intriguing. Also think about behavioral matchmaking. This is the most accurate way of matchmaking. People will tell you, I've got a saying, people will tell you everything if you only observe. And the best indicator of someone's future behavior is going to be their past behavior. No matter what they say, people lie and they don't really know what they want. That's a problem with our industry. So we need to look at their behaviors. Think about the pre-date. How are you going to help them get out on a date? They want help. They want an idea of where to go. Why not partner with all of the daily deal sites that are out there? There's so many great, Yipit, for example, YIPIT. Group Commerce is another group. These two companies allow you to do white labeling of daily deals. There's no reason why you can't book dinners for people. Think about after the date. You should be surveying members. Are they happy with the date? Are they happy with you? Would they refer you? How likely would they be to refer you to a friend? There's a few surveys you can use, but mainly you want to get feedback on those dates. Did you do a good job? If not, why not? How can you improve? Roll that into your algorithms as well. You need to be monetizing the people with bigger pockets better. Believe me, you're leaving a lot of money on the table by not doing microtransactions. Offer both. And think about social discovery. We actually had a social discovery conference last year, I think it was. We ran a little social discovery conference. And really the word that sums up social discovery is serendipity. You know, the random chance of you bumping into somebody who's a good match. And so Highlight is a good example of this. You know, you hook into Highlight and it'll tell you when people that you know are around you, and so you can, go meet up with them. This is another area for us to think about. Right, final, how to value your company. What number should you're thinking about selling your company, or perhaps you're thinking about buying a company, but let's imagine you're thinking about selling your company. You should consider how to value your company and prepare for this. And the number one question I'd like to appeal to you, I'm involved more and more in M&A. My personal time, I'm focusing on M&A, so I've been thinking about this a lot. And the one question that I like to ask prospective sellers of companies is, how much would you pay for your company? If you were to do role reversal and you really mentally put yourself in the position that you were going to buy your company, no one knows your company and the dynamics of your company and the problems and good and bad better than you. So what would you pay? Honestly, what would you pay? If you ask more than 30% of that number, probably you don't want to bother selling it, because the only thing you'll achieve is handing out your metrics to the competitors. So, don't open the kimono until you're really ready to sell. And I think a nice way of putting a number on it is, what would you sell it for? Add 30% on. Would you accept that? Would you work within that parameter? If you're going to double that number and want 20 times EBITDA, unless you're growing gangbusters and you've got some strategic assets, then you're probably not going to get it. Okay, real quick, domain and brand. You can put a separate number on your brand. If you've got Cupid.com, there's some great brand names out there, domains in and of themselves that are worth millions. Think about the team. What would it cost? What would it cost to hire your team? If you went to a headhunter, and what was the cost of waiting 6 months to a year to build that team? You've got to think about the hiring of the team. What would it cost to build the SEO position that you've got? What did you pay? What would it cost to duplicate that? And the PPC program. How long would it take to get a new PPC program to settle in and get it built up to the same level that you've got your PPC program in? How well developed is it? How much would you pay a company to build that program? You've got to put a number on that too. How about the ad partners? Do you have any strategic advertising partners? Put a number on that as well. What would it cost to build your advertising partnerships again? How about the platform? Is it modern? Do you have mobile? You can put a number on that. In terms of the development cost, how long would it take? Would it take 6 months? How many hundreds of thousands or millions would it take to rebuild that? And how dated is it? What's the opportunity cost? I always think you've got to think about where could you put that money alternatively? If we're buying a company, we're going to look at what are the alternatives, of course. And the potential for cost savings. You combine company A, company B, change the offices, combine technologies, you can save some money and drop more profit to the bottom line. We also look at IP as well. I mean, what have you got in terms of patents, maybe? What have you got that's unique in terms of functionality and hard assets, and also business risk? Do you have any court cases pending, for example? And that's my lot. There's 11 points there. That's Online Personals Watch. Please do subscribe. On the left, you can subscribe, get daily news updates. We're a husband and wife team. We've got a team of 12, as you saw. Basically, our pitch is for the price of a junior marketing manager, you can get access to a team of seasoned internet dating professionals.